Who do you think of when you think of the Seattle SuperSonics? Owner disagreements with the city of Seattle caused the team to move to Oklahoma in 2008 and 2009. But with the rabid sports fan base in one of the top media markets in the country, why hasn't Seattle gotten a new shot at making the SuperSonics work? Today, we're going to discuss the three big reasons in place right now that that's not happened. Let's dive in. Let's do it.
This is the Upshot podcast. We're about to break down the biggest moments in the NBA.
Long three! Tie game with 5 seconds remaining!
And why they matter now. This is the Upshot podcast.
So, a very storied history in the Seattle SuperSonics. One of, if you grew up around the time that we grew up, this was one of the teams that you absolutely loved because of what they were putting out on the floor and what they meant to the game of basketball. Today with me is my crew. This is Nick Adkins, Marshall Robertson, and Joe Baltz, and we are going to be discussing, I think, probably one of our favorite teams that doesn't actually exist anymore, and it's the strangest thing in the world, the Seattle SuperSonics, and we're talking about the top three reasons why we don't have the Sonics back yet. I think everybody in the room right now understands that we are going to get a Seattle team. It's going to happen, but it's been almost 11 years, and why do we not have this team in place right now? And if you're sitting at home right now, you may be thinking, well, it's hard to get an NBA team. It's not something that everybody can do. It's a lot of work, a lot of things, and especially if you're like us, you live around Memphis, Tennessee, where we had to it took forever to get a team to come to us. You think, well, that's a special thing. But when you start really doing the math of why teams go to certain places, it really starts to make no sense why there's no team in Seattle. So today, that's what we're going to dive into. And I think before we get into why there's not a team in Seattle right now, we got to talk about the history of what the SuperSonics were, where they came from, and how they got going. So let's dive into that. One of the big things, is where they started. And Nick, lead us in.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I find this fascinating. So you guys fans of Starbucks? We're all Starbucks fans.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not at all, but
Not at
thanks
all,
for asking.
That's great. Well, you're in the minority because, look, I love it. All right, I know.
I
it's
hear
even
they're doing
corporate.
okay.
I mean, I think they're doing fine. So, guy who is the CEO of Starbucks, I think still a CEO technically, but he may just be on the board, Howard Schultz. Right?
Yep, you got it.
Sometimes I get him mixed up with the Peanuts guy. I don't want to.
I understand.
And also, if you've been following the newsletter, Howard is not running for president. We're not going to get political here, but just FYI, if you come out and they say, what party are you part of, and you say independent in this day and age, it doesn't bode well because people love to fight, okay?
Yep.
You can't straddle that
Pick
line.
a side, buddy.
It's not the first mistake Howard's made. So that's what I want to get into. Howard was beloved in Seattle. Starbucks is a phenomenon. You cannot say it was not, okay? It was huge, great for the city of Seattle. Loves Seattle, and what does he do? He purchases the Seattle SuperSonics. That franchise is not one with a lazy fan base. Okay, they're a storied franchise. They won a title, I think, in 1979. Okay?
Well, let's go before that.
Sure.
They start out in 67.
67.
67's when we break into, getting into it, and it was actually very interesting. This was somebody that owned a football team, and we own a football team, and we get the opportunity because things are going well. Let's open up some more sports franchises, and you know what? You start doing the math, like we're going to lay out for you in meticulous detail in a minute. You start doing the math, and you say, you know what? Seattle's a place where we can make some money with any sports team that we put into place. And the first major sports team in Seattle is the SuperSonics. And so 1967, we get the SuperSonics, and with any NBA team that first comes into existence, it's not the easiest route there for a little bit. But we get into some names that you'll know, and we get into a Lenny Wilkins.
Oh yeah,
and very big name, and we get into a Spencer Haywood. And, we have some names that have come into play here. And I think one of the big things that stuck out to me that I had no idea as we were doing research for this pod, we have the Bill Russell that is brought on to coach the team. And this is the thing.
Wow. Had no idea.
No, I had no clue either. And this is what's so great is you have this team that is, they're on the up and up. They've brought in some players that are showing up that are doing some great things. And then you bring in Bill Russell, and not only do you bring in Bill Russell, but the first year Bill Russell comes in, he takes the Sonics to their first playoff.
Wow.
And we're not going to win the championship. We're not going to the finals. We're not even getting close. But we get to the first round, and
that guy was pretty good at winning titles.
He was
not
okay.
Not bad.
He was good.
And so we go through this sort of, and if you're a hardcore Sonics fan, we go into this sort of interesting thing where we've got Lenny Wilkens. We bring on Spencer Haywood. We get rid of Lenny Wilkens. The fan base goes nuts for a few years. We bring in Bill Russell. Things kind of go up, and then they start to go down. Then we bring Lenny back, and we win a championship, and we have something going.
Yeah.
We have something going. And, so it's 79. We have a great team. We have a championship come in. And then all of a sudden, we hit a little bit of a drought.
Which happens to most teams, most franchises. Yeah.
It does. But the interesting thing about Seattle, as we've said before, and I think this is going to be the big argument that we've got, is throughout all of this, throughout the drought, we've got the Seattle fan base sticking in place, and they are waiting. And this is where we get into sort of where we come into the game.
Oh, yeah.
And I think this is one of the most formative memories that I have about basketball. Yes, there's Jordan. Yes, there's the Bulls. There's all the big things that happen there. But then you've got what I think we think of when we get into the Supersonics.
Oh, yeah.
Which is Kemp and Payton.
Shawn Kemp.
What do we think? Because I want to hear I have some very specific memories, which I think you guys know about. But what do you guys think of when you think of Kemp and Payton?
We could talk a lot about Shawn Kemp. That could be its own pod because
he's unbelievable.
He was an unbelievable athlete, a freak athlete, even for the NBA. Power forward type, could jump out of the gym.
He was kind of a hybrid.
And Gary Payton, one of the best shit talkers that's ever played the game.
Amazing.
One of the best
glove
that's ever played the game. And they were hanging out. They were playoff teams in the 90s. Okay.
One of the sickest NBA Jam teams of all time, too. Little known fact.
Very good.
So sick.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that. My thing is as I'm coming up, and I played ball just like you guys. We all played ball together growing up, and the first big shoe that I bought.
Oh my
was
God,
this
those shoes!
Ugly. Let's just be honest. It was.
I can
ugly.
still see them in my head.
I can too.
Like shark teeth.
However, if you start looking at this shoe blew up, and it was Shawn Kemp's Kamikaze. Like it was amazing, and it was a very big thing, and for a team that was not doing any better than they were doing okay.
Yeah, they were good,
but to have the impact that those two players had was amazing.
Yeah.
I felt like Ben won more titles in that shoe than Shawn Kemp, but
that is so true.
With that
I wore those
said,
shoes for a
good
while.
Ben
point.
was a phenomenal player when he had that shoe. I mean, I'm not giving the shoe credit, but it was really nice.
He was one of the first guys I remember having the shoe too.
Absolutely.
Like he was a trailblazer.
Which takes us back. We open up with coffee, the coffee story. We talk about Starbucks, and that's where we start really getting into Howard and what we had there. So
with Schultz, with Howard too, because if he's up to 2 or 3 books now, and if you look at it, he doesn't shy away from talking about the Supersonics. Peyton was still there, Gary was,
right.
I think Kemp was gone at that point, but when Howard bought the team, and they got into it immediately because Howard's big thing is top down team, stuff like that. And look, that just it's different with coffee and an NBA team. Okay, that's not going to work. And so Howard kind of had a rude awakening right away, but the main point of this pod and the reason that we're having this discussion is what the hell happened and why did the team leave Seattle when Seattle, the market, is a 4-sport team.
Yeah.
Okay, we're a Memphis crew. That's a 1-sport town. Okay, Seattle has a big enough market, has a big enough fan base to support 4 teams. Okay, you're talking basketball, football, baseball, and hockey, and can easily do it. So why did they not have a basketball team? It's not like they were struggling. Okay, they needed a new arena, but why did the team literally leave town?
Well, and this is where it gets really interesting, and I think that one of the big points that we see over and over again in professional sports, no matter what sports you're actually getting into, is anytime it's time to build a new stadium, we run into this very interesting question of, well, this person that owns it has all this money or has at least access to other people that have money too. Why can they not finance
Why are
this?
we getting taxed for this?
Why are we? Yeah, exactly. And you know what? I totally understand the argument of, it's jobs. It brings in a ton of revenue. People travel from all over to come see this stuff. I understand that. However,
The flip side is it, you have $1 billion.
You have $1 billion.
You're going to continue to make money off of this, right?
Off of this.
And so the thing that you can't get into our 3 reasons without first touching on this, because this is the most important thing. And we'll talk about what happened with Howard and the team here in a second. But the thing you have to remember about commissioners, NBA, NFL, right? Okay, they work for the owners. Okay, they are working for the owners, and so when these things come up, and I got to be honest with you, you have to give props to Adam Silver, because I think Adam Silver is a pretty beloved guy, and I think that he straddles the line, or at least he's found a way from a PR wise to straddle the line between being pro player empowerment, but also still working for the owners, right? And we'll get into how he straddled that line here in a second, but look, if you're Adam Silver and the owners are saying, yeah, I'd like to get some city funding for this, of course you're going to support it. And that's what they do. The NBA takes the position that they do want the city to chime in on this. But Seattle, okay, was one of the first cities to say, we're not doing that.
I think that's really interesting, because you've got a team that's great. You support the team. However, you've also got a city that's very confident in that, we're a sports town.
Right.
And
we're going to show up.
We're coming out. And because we're going to come out, we don't necessarily want to take on the tax burden. And I think this is one of the first big examples, if I'm not wrong. This is one of the first big examples where you have a city saying, you know what? No.
Yeah.
We're not going to get behind this. We're not going to finance a new arena. We love the team. We love everything that's going on, but we're not going to do it. And let's be really honest. That's the big start of the problem and why Seattle starts to lose. It doesn't happen right away. Like things things get repaired a little bit.
Yeah.
But this is really the beginning. This is the match that really lights the fuse for things going on. And so let's walk the timeline of kind of what happens with this, and when the city just kind of says, no, we're not in on this.
Sure. So look, it's political. It's more of a political process than you would like. Okay. But Schultz, and you're clearly not getting the money on the table that you want, all right, he starts saying, well, I'm going to sell the team. And then, of course, everybody starts to wonder, whoa, who are you selling the team to, okay? And, if you're Howard, you've also got some other interests, too, because you are the golden boy of Seattle, so you kind of have to straddle that line. So, long story short, Clay Bennett, currently the owner of the Oklahoma City Thunder, I don't think we have to spoil this, you know where it's going, offers to buy the team. Now, this entire time, Schultz has been going through arguments with the city council saying, look, we need some money here. They're saying, we're not doing it. We're not going to pay for it, okay? We're going to show up, but pay for it. They never come to an agreement. I says, I'm selling the team. He ends up selling the team for $350 million in 2006 to Clay Bennett, who is an Oklahoma City businessman. Of course, in the papers at the time, Clay Bennett, I want to keep the team in Seattle. We want to work here. We want to be here. This is a storied franchise. This is a great franchise.
However,
a few months later, what? The city council talks. Really thought we'd come up with something different. It's not shaking out.
Yeah, it rains too much here.
Yeah, it's a lot.
really does.
He literally gave him 60 days.
That's
for
right.
a timeline. He said, I'll give you 60 days to come up with the money.
Last game played there April 13th, 2008. They're gone. Oklahoma City franchise, and there has not been a basketball franchise in Seattle since.
So, in just some facts here, $350 million is what the team was sold for. The current value of the team is $1.25 billion. That is, a few years later, but
nice work, Coffee Man.
Yeah, it was it was good work. Clay Bennett, though, right, and as I think we all know, and it's actually come out. There's been evidence
He was never staying.
There was no staying unless there was a really sweet deal, and probably not.
So
even
imagine
then.
being a Seattle fan. I mean, you're literally playing this out, and you're looking at quotes from both parties saying, "Oh no, I wouldn't sell the team unless I knew they were going to stay. I wouldn't buy the team if I didn't want to stay." And it's bullshit. Okay, and then it plays out like Joe said. Literally, it's like 60 days, and it's like, "Oh, you are moving the team. We knew this was going to happen the whole time. We watched you sell it. We watched you buy it, and now we're losing our team in the middle of the night."
Well, and I think it's very interesting because all of a sudden there's $500 million from Oklahoma.
Yep,
ready in
got
a short period.
You got a local guy, a Seattle guy, self-made guy that's trying to make this happen, and so probably the fear factor from the team. There's no example made yet. I mean, we'll find out Seattle is the example, but there's no example made yet.
Right.
And then the Oklahoma guy comes in, and he's saying the same thing, except the difference is he's from Oklahoma. So there's no ties. There's literally nothing that says, if this doesn't go well, where will we go?
Right.
It's they're leaving for Oklahoma City.
And from
obviously.
a team perspective, it just seems so weird and such weird timing because they had just drafted Durant.
One of who we all think is going to end up being top 10 player of all time.
Right, and
it was a gift. That was the second pick.
We kind of knew it. Didn't we kind of know it then too? When he came out, we're like,
well,
this guy's going to be
and
money.
this was their best draft pick ever.
Oh, it was huge.
This is the best spot they'd had. They had to do some gymnastics to actually get this spot.
Yeah.
They bring in Durant. Nobody's sure that he's going to live up to the hype. First year, crushes.
Oh, he was sick.
Hey, do you think that this with Durant has any effect on why we think he's so weird with it? When I say weird, I love Kevin Durant. I think he's an amazing player.
That makes one of us.
But I think I understand, and that's fair. I think he's misunderstood, but also I think he makes a lot
He's
of
driven
mistakes
that
with
narrative.
the things he says.
Well,
yeah,
let's talk about it because I think you bring up an interesting point about Durant. Durant comes in. He's the second round pick. He delivers. He brings it home.
Second overall pick.
Second overall, right? Sorry. Second overall pick that year, and he brings it home. He does a great job, and then all of a sudden the rug gets pulled out from under him. You're
leaving town.
This is your livelihood.
He's a teenager at the time, probably.
That's true,
Maybe 20. Okay.
And I think really quickly, and I'm not a big Durant fan either. I love to watch the guy play. I think he's good for the NBA, but I'm not a big fan. However, and I'm going to hate myself for defending this guy. You learn really early on when you come into the NBA when this happens, because this situation does not happen to many NBA players.
No,
Right.
not at all.
You'll get traded, but you do not have to go from a team to a new city real often. And so, right away, does this put Durant in a position where he says, I'm out for myself?
Yeah, hey man, this is a business.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. You bought a house, you'll be fine, but it doesn't matter. We're picking up and moving. You better look out for number one.
It might explain some things, but I'm still not letting him off.
No, absolutely not. No, absolutely.
I mean, to be clear, and just to interject into this pod, it may not belong, but this is the point where I love KD, and I loved him in OKC.
Agreed.
Like,
He's
all
actually
this was-
beloved.
He
in
was
Seattle.
so great.
He was loved in two cities.
He was humble.
And being a Grizzlies fan, no one can hate me for that. We don't win anything. I literally am going to the arena watching this guy kick my team out of the playoffs, and I like him.
That's right.
I like KD. So
Well, if it's any consolation, don't feel bad, because Seattle probably will get a team within the next 10 years, and I'm sure Kevin's going to go play there. He's trying to hit every one.
Oh,
at
yeah.
least until he gets
He just
out.
might.
So
That's right.
hopefully it's not the
he'll be
Grizzlies.
So, last game in Seattle is April 13th, 2000.
By the way, I think Durant went for 42 and
Yeah.
13 in that
huge
game.
Monster. And it's safe to say that
It was a bit
Kevin
small.
Durant leaves Seattle as a celebrity in a very big way. Not being there long, but leaves as a celebrity. But then it's off to Oklahoma. The rest is history. We start this whole thing. Durant plays for Oklahoma. All of a sudden goes to Golden State.
Right.
And we have this whole narrative. The interesting thing is this. Between 2008 and now, the Seattle market has not stopped battling to get their team back. And, and this brings me to a very interesting storyline. And I have to bring this up, and it's a weird sort of aside, but, KD comes to Seattle in 2018. And this is sort of an odd thing, but
The preseason game, right?
yeah,
They were doing a preseason game.
It's an odd game. It is the Warriors versus the Sacramento Kings. And as we're coming out and we're announcing the starting lineup, we get KD come out and he's wearing a Sonics jersey, which is huge. And this is one of those things where I will bash on KD, but the knowledge of that moment
Oh, yeah.
and what that would mean. And
Very
to do,
smart move by him.
Yeah,
It's the coolest thing he's done in my mind since he went to the Warriors.
Absolutely.
I mean, I can say that was props to him for
Yeah.
that.
And so he comes out and, he wears the jersey. Everybody's hyped up. And we have this moment of him on a mic and he says something very, very interesting, and we'll play the clip. So he says that, and the place goes absolutely nuts. And in that moment, something that I don't think I understood is what was actually happening and how hungry that Seattle was to get a team back. So with that said, we've got 11 years in between here and there, in this aside moment when the team leaves. And why does Seattle not have a team? Like, what's going on? Like, to have the market that they've got, and we'll get into this in a minute, it is a huge market. They're supporting multiple sports teams. They've got a huge media market. They've got tons of money to put into this. They've got a fan base that will show up. I don't think anybody doubts that first year especially no matter what kind of team they put up, they're packing the place out.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well,
And go ahead.
It looks like, so from whenever I've watched this clip and I saw some of that, and so I guess the Seattle Storm are playing in the Key Arena, which is where the Sonics played.
right.
And so this is like the send off to renovation. So no one's going to step in the arena again after tonight, know, whenever KD has that opportunity. And so now they're trying to find a way. I mean, essentially, if you're saying we're leaving Seattle for arena purposes, now Seattle's saying, what can we do to Key Arena to make this place ready to lure someone back? And unfortunately, now they're not just looking for a place that'll house a team, but I mean, luring's another level. Like you've got to actually be great. So, I mean, and there's several layers to that with the NHL team and other things with that. So that was the start of the renovation for them, from what I understand.
Yeah. So all that said, it's been 11 years since we last saw a professional basketball game, regular season in Seattle. Why does Seattle not have an NBA team already? Here are the top 3 reasons that we think that the NBA has not allowed this to happen. And let's put an exclamation mark on that. Why the NBA has not allowed this to happen, and why the team hasn't successfully relocated to that spot. So, what do we got?
Yeah, number 1 is Mexico City, which I was a little bit surprised to find this out, because if you're not actually following the story...
Wait, Mexico City?
Mexico City, yeah, that's right. And again, I was surprised because I didn't personally know this until I started diving in here. Now, I'm sure it's pretty well known in Seattle, but the NBA has been interested in international expansion for a long time, particularly Commissioner Adam Silver. And if you think about it from Silver's standpoint, if you're trying to build a legacy after Stern, it makes a ton of sense.
He wants to make his mark.
Right? And so let me look up these numbers here. It looks like the NBA has played 28 games in Mexico City since 1992. They're putting a G League team there next season. So this upcoming season, which starts in like a month, they're putting a G League team there as a quote unquote trial balloon just to see how it's work, how is attendance going to work, which doesn't
that mean that means we're coming to Mexico City,
right? It's
that's
coming.
That's what
and
happens.
So, if you're the NBA, I can see why Mexico City would work and why you would want to do that, not just for legacy purposes, but look at Canada, right? Okay, so we had the Vancouver Grizzlies. It didn't technically work out, but then, which now, thank God it didn't for us.
Yeah,
right?
seriously.
But we've got Toronto, which is the reigning champ.
That worked out pretty good.
It worked out good too. But if you look at the prospects that we've gotten from Canada over the years, help me out. Steve Nash comes to mind.
Yeah,
right?
that's got to be number 1.
The number 3 pick of this prior draft, R.J. Barrett. Okay, I think Van Fleet. Isn't Van Fleet maybe Canadian, or maybe he just played for Toronto? Maybe I made that up. But
Justin Bieber.
Biebs is in there. Okay,
Absolutely.
And so
the guy can ball.
Phenomenal shooter I've seen.
when you put these teams in these international expansion areas, it actually builds the game, and there's certainly an argument that it makes the game better. So I get it.
Well, we learned some lessons from the Dream Team. We have all these great players from overseas because of that. That was the beginning. We have all these things that are even when something does not work in an area, the awareness and what is brought up and what young kids think that they can do and what they can reach for changes. And so this is the thing is when we talk about Mexico City, to put a bow on this, I think the thing is you can't expand too many places or change locations all at once.
Yeah.
And so if you're really focused on this legacy that Silver's trying to put together, which is to move into the Latin market, you can't be, doing that and trying to make sure that going back to Seattle goes well too.
I think the interesting case study here would be, and shame on me for not knowing this, would be to go back and look how we got into Canada.
Yeah.
Like I would really love to know the ins and outs of how we got there and why we've decided that this is our next move. That'd be really interesting.
And if you want to go conspiracy theory on it, I mean, how about us looking to expand to international, and we literally just finished the worst we've ever finished internationally in youth play, and not because everyone's caught us, but suddenly all of our superstars aren't playing. And
That's
I mean,
right.
there's a lot of angles on that, but I mean, we're finishing 7th with
I love
pro
conspiracy,
athletes.
Joe. Conspiracy
Marc
Joe's my
Gasol, get him another ring.
Yeah, and so that's our number 3 reason. Let's get to number 2. This is NBA TV and
Money.
media rights. What do you think?
Money. Let me ask you guys a question. Let me pose a question to the group here. Let's say, try not to be bashful. We have a very successful podcast. We're making a lot of money. Okay? But let's say we get somebody else that we want to come in that talks about it, but we've all signed a deal through 2021 with something that we're all making X amount of money. and then we're bringing somebody else in. We're going to have to train them. We're going to have to bring them along. We got to share our profits with them.
No, ain't got no time for that.
No.
Nope.
Okay, so that's a microcosm of what's going on. So the NBA they're currently in the middle of a 9-year, $24 billion television and media rights deal with ESPN and Turner. And that runs through 2024, 2025. Look, you don't have to be a genius to figure this out. If you add in another team, you add in another owner, this is collectively bargaining. Okay, so
Division.
exactly. So
Simple.
you're sharing more money with somebody. And so if you're, again, my standpoint on it is if you're Adam Silver, and again, you're working for all of these guys, right? They're saying, hey, man, we're good with it, and we actually think it could expand, and we'll all probably make more money. Can you do it after this $24 billion deal's done?
Right.
We're making more and more money off that each year.
Plus, it sounds like you're saying he would get 2 more bosses if they expand.
Yeah,
to
exactly.
2 more teams, so
Exactly.
he doesn't need that either. But
I mean, look, it's a money decision at the end of the day. And when that deal expires in 2024, 2025, I would imagine we're going to start hearing a lot more Seattle talk closer to 2023.
yeah,
Right?
to be clear, that's not self-serving. That's legit. Like, why would he want to do that? The owners don't want that. He doesn't want that. I mean, his profit and gain off that, is so minuscule compared to what they're receiving out of it. And the NBA is how as it's ever been. So why put your neck out there and risk losing money at the same time?
But to me, without knowing all the ins and outs, like, doesn't 32 seem like the magic number? I mean,
that's exactly
32 is the
what I
magic
thought.
number
I'm
of the
always
NFL.
I'm always shocked to hear that it's not 32.
Yeah, I was like, wait, I thought there were 32, and I started counting. I'm like, no, there's only 26.
I actually was going to go back and see why it wasn't, and I didn't want to know. I was like, I'm going to go look at the divisions. I was like, I can't figure out why it's not 32. But you're right.
Wouldn't it make it the magic number? I don't know. I have
it's
a
already
hard time to realize. Like, I'm having a hard time.
But that's
buying
the
into
cap.
The fact
To
that we
be
can't
clear,
get in
to
there.
answer your question, but do you not feel like
that's
that's
where
the
it should
cap?
end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if it's
It should
really
end
going to
there.
end at 32, don't mess this up. Like because
So
we're
maybe
not,
they're just
we're not-
trying to get it
Yeah,
right.
we're not going to play in Spain.
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe we play in.
Don't say that.
Yeah, like
We'll know.
I'm just saying, like you're going to put a cap on it somewhere, and so like if we put one more team in the United States, we're only leaving the country with one other team.
And
So-
I think, look, we're going to seem like giant homers if we don't at least mention this. We talked about it, but
No, don't do
it
it.
needs to go
Don't
into
do
this
it.
position here. So there's a Grizzlies deal coming up in 2021.
I'm gonna
on
be in the
arena.
bathroom.
And look, the two technically, I think last year from Forbes it said that the two least profitable teams, second to last. And last is the New Orleans Pelicans. Now, I'm not sure what.
no,
kind of
thanks to
summer-
us, they got
Exactly.
those season ticket money.
That's true. We did.
Sore subject.
I'm at this pod nearly
Son of a bee
divorced.
sting.
Good
Yeah.
grief.
Well, and I think this is interesting to play into this. Is the team going to come from somewhere else, or is there going to be a new team?
Well,
And-
the reason,
and the odds are that it's going to come from somewhere else to start because that's the easiest way to do it.
Bigger
Where are the
market.
Flint Tropics when you need them?
Exactly.
That's what I
Yes.
want to know.
I think this is what's interesting. This has already started. The expansion back into Seattle's already started. We mentioned the exhibition.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you guys remember way back in the day when we were, and this is just our little microcosm again, we get into the Grizzlies. How they brought the Grizzlies to Memphis was years of exhibition games where they would bring in the Chicago Bulls
Yeah,
to
Michael
play,
Jordan.
to
Yeah.
play in the pyramid to see what and so this is what they do. It's not necessarily actually bringing a G League team first. It's a lot of exhibition games, and so this has started, and it's going to happen. But you're right. Right now, you got to think everybody long term in the NBA wins owner wise if there's another team, especially if there's a team in Seattle. However, it's about timing. It's about doing it the right way.
Benny, when you and I were young children at that game, it was Bulls v Supersonics, by the way. Okay,
Absolutely.
at the Pyramid, I remember sitting there thinking, "What an honor to sit in a future Bass Pro Shop." I could not believe
If
we
we'd
had
only
the
known.
I
honor.
sat right where a boat floats right now.
Oh, terrible. So, those are two big reasons, but I think this is the most interesting one to me.
Yeah.
This is our number one reason, and this is what we would call the side piece
Must
theory.
be your side
It's a side
piece.
And let's explain this.
Sure.
Side piece.
All right,
Good
Joe.
one, Joe. Good one, Joe.
Joe,
Like
perk
a
up, my man.
trailer
Perk
that
up for
has
this
the
one.
Slide out trailer.
Yeah, it's a dually. No, so look, again, all of these things kind of tie in together, right? And so, again, Adam Silver works for these owners, okay? The NBA, I would venture to say, has never had a better quote unquote, I'm not trying to be insensitive here, we didn't coin this term, side piece than Seattle. Seattle's got a great market. They won a team. There is a very real threat that a team is going there, right? And so you saw it in Phoenix with Sarver. You may see it in Memphis. I really hope not, but you've seen it with a few franchises. They almost did it, I think, with maybe Minnesota. Okay,
Sacramento was
Sacramento
was right there. 2013.
Okay, so that's 4 teams.
And not to cut you off, this arena is being done. Like it's not. It's not a what if. It's a done deal. So that piece of it is established. So now Seattle is ready to take on a team.
It's a bargaining.
How do you get people to come out to games when the team's not so great? Well, you know what? Maybe I'm not excited about the team this year, but I may be excited about the team at some point in the future. And there's a real threat. I know exactly where they're going. If they leave.
That's right.
Seattle's it's a top 15 market right out of the gate. Okay. Yep. It's a huge market. The fan base is going to be there. Okay. And again, the threat has never been more real of if you want to play this game, if you do not want to fund a new arena, we're moving. Okay. We're going to move. And again, I think the NBA has enjoyed having it. I think Adam Silver and the owners have made more money and gotten more money from arenas from a lot of cities by having Seattle sitting here for 11
It's like you got the clingy girl who just keeps hanging around. It's like, man, she drives me nuts, but man, I do like the attention.
Exactly.
I like the attention.
And this comes back into, everyone still remembers what happened in Seattle. Everyone still remembers this.
It's fresh.
Light.
That's a fresh wound.
And so
they'll leave.
If you don't pony up the money for the arenas, if you don't show up, they're going to go. And wouldn't it be terrible if all of a sudden this arena that's sitting here in your city right now was just an empty building for concerts that you showed up every?
Do you think Silver doesn't believe in the NHL part of this? So I think this is an underlying thing.
It's the opposite.
It's the opposite.
Yes,
but I do think that they're loathsome to have an arena that shares with an NHL team. They want it all NBA,
which
NBA
is crazy.
shows.
There's precedent there. There are other arenas.
They don't want to share the arena.
They don't want to.
You got the Seahawks and the Mariners are top 16 franchise as far as what they're worth in their fan base here, and then you've got what MLS is a top 3 in the league. From what I've read, so that's outstanding. I mean, Seattle's coming, but that's it. To play the other side of that is Seattle sold this new arena, the Key Arena, as being a concert venue and a hockey venue.
Right.
And for what I'm understanding is owners are going the other direction completely, in that they want to own their own arena, even if it hurts them on the front end, because they can market all pieces of this, and all revenue is coming at them. So as far as trying to entice the NBA to come, they are only sharing a piece of that. So the less piece there is for the NBA's pie here, they're like, well, man, that sounds good if we get in a spot, but right now we got some better options.
And think about this too, because just flat out, are you more threatened right now? We're Memphis, so it's a threat, okay? Are you more threatened right now by Seattle or Mexico City?
It's interesting.
It's Seattle.
Yeah, that's
how I feel.
To me, it's absolutely Seattle because it's so much more tangible. I know they're going to get a team. I know they're probably getting the next team, okay? And I know that the market can justify it.
I don't know that I agree with that.
Why not?
You've had preseason games since 1992 in Mexico City, and now you have a G League team right there right now. I mean, they're literally knocking on the door. Their boxes are on the doorstep, waiting for someone to give them the key.
Yeah,
and they're going to walk in and move in.
I think it's interesting.
It's
going to
happen.
Threats from multiple angles. I think that's part of the game.
For this quote unquote again, the side piece theory. I wonder if the NBA has ever had a better one than Seattle.
How can we think of one? I don't know how there could be one.
It's really interesting. So, what do you think? Is it time for Seattle to get their team back? Tell us what you think at upshotpodcast.com, and remember, you can grab show notes and links from this show there too. Also, make sure you subscribe to the Upshot Podcast and make sure to leave us a review on iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts. Thanks for listening. We'll be back next week with another show. We'll see you then.
You've been listening to the Upshot NBA podcast. If you like what you heard, make sure to click the subscribe button so you can get a new Upshot episode every week. And make sure to leave us a review on your podcast app as soon as you're done listening.